Catch the wave. You're listening to Wave Radio, your home for uplifting gospel music.
What's going on, good people? You just tuned in to the Afternoon Praise. I'm your host, Demetrius L. Brown, and this is Thrive Thursday. Yes, we are one day away from Memorial Day weekend. I know some of you all are preparing to rest. Some of you all are preparing to celebrate, travel, relax, work on projects, spend time with family. But check this out. But before we get into the weekend, we need to have an honest conversation, because a lot of people are praying for change, growth, peace, opportunity, discipline, and expansion, but continuing negotiating with their very behaviors required to sustain it. And today's conversation is stop negotiating with your potential. And let me say this early, y'all. This is not condemnation. This is awareness. Because many people already know exactly what needs to happen. The hard conversations, the boundaries, the discipline, the structure, the healing, the consistency, the decisions, and the execution. But the problem is no longer information. The problem is negotiation. Let's look at James 1 verse 8. A double-minded man is unstable in all his ways. That instability is not just spiritual. It shows up in your leadership. It shows up in your discipline. It shows up in your communication. The instability shows up in your relationships. It shows up in your business. It shows up in how you execute. And it shows up in your emotional health. So today we are dismantling the negotiation table. You're listening to the Afternoon Praise, and if you just tuned in, today we are dealing with stop negotiating with your potential. Go tell a family member, go tell a friend, come tune in, because the show today, we are going to put our foot on your neck. In a good way, though, all right? You're listening to the Afternoon Praise. I'm your host, Demetrius L. Brown.
Join us on this heavenly journey, one song at a time, Wave Radio.
You're listening to the Afternoon Praise on this Thrive Thursday. Yes, it is Thursday. Where did the week go? The time is flying, people. So you know what that means? We don't have time to negotiate with our potential. We have to stop negotiating with our potential. And I want to be clear on something. Some of you all are not confused. You are avoiding. And let's start honestly. A lot of people are not confused. They are avoiding discomfort, avoiding confrontation, avoiding accountability, avoiding discipline, avoiding difficult decisions, and emotional honesty. And because high capacity people are intelligent, they know how to disguise avoidance. Now, avoidance sound like I'm still processing, I'm waiting on clarity, I'm researching, I'm preparing, I'm thinking through it, and this one right here that all saved people do. I'm still praying on it and waiting for God to answer. But deep down, they already know what needs to happen. And the longer people avoid unnecessary action, the heavier the mental weight becomes. Because unfinished decisions occupy mental space. Avoided conversation creates emotional tensions. Delayed responsibility slowly drains confidence. And eventually, people become emotionally exhausted, carrying things they should have confronted months ago. Delayed honesty eventually becomes self-sabotage. You're listening to the Afternoon Praise. I'm your host, Demetrius L. Brown.
You're riding the waves of faith and grace on Wave Radio.
You're listening to the Afternoon Praise, and this is Thrive Thursday, and we are talking about stop negotiating with your potential. See, productive procrastination is still procrastination. I know you're probably saying, hold on, how did you use productive and procrastination in the same sentence? Okay, I'm gonna show you. Check this out. See, high capacity people rarely sabotage themselves through laziness. Their procrastination usually look productive. See, they'll redesign the website or reorganize files, rewrite plans, start side projects, take low risk meetings, all while avoiding one conversation or decision that actually matter. That's sophisticated avoidance. And because they're talented, they can still outperform other people while operating below their true capacity. That's dangerous. And that was me. That was me. I'm being honest, people. Because eventually people become comfortable functioning beneath their actual potential. And when functioning beneath potential becomes normal, people stop pushing themselves towards uncomfortable growth. Now they stay inside safe productivity instead of transformational execution. You can use productivity to hide from transformation, people. Hey, you're listening to the Afternoon Praise. I'm your host, Demetrius L. Brown.
Stay tuned and stay blessed here on Wave Radio.
You're listening to the Afternoon Praise. I'm your host, Demetrius L. Brown. See, some people are negotiating with discipline also, too. Some people negotiate with everything. They negotiate with waking up early. They negotiate with consistency. They negotiate with organization. They negotiate with exercise. They negotiate with structure. They negotiate with healing. And they negotiate with boundaries. Everything becomes a debate. This weekend, next month, when things calm down, when I feel better, when timing improves. Meanwhile, years keep moving, and eventually people start blaming timing, opportunity, and circumstances, when the real issue is behavioral inconsistency. A lot of people do not need another seminar. They need a final decision with themselves. Because transformation begins the moment negotiation ends. Your life changes when you stop negotiating with necessary behaviors. You're listening to the Afternoon Praise. I'm your host, Demetrius L. Brown.
Stay tuned and stay blessed here on Wave Radio.
If you just tuned in, you're listening to the Afternoon Praise. I'm your host, Demetrius L. Brown, and I want to thank you for joining me on this Thrive Thursday. Yes, let's talk about comfort is expensive. See, comfort feels safe in the moment, but comfort can become extremely expensive long term because comfort delays growth, comfort delays healing, comfort delays discipline. It delays difficult conversations, it delays transformation, and it delays emotional maturity. See, a lot of people say they want a different life while emotionally protecting the behavior, creating the current one. That's the tension. You cannot build a new future while protecting old excuses. Excuse me. And sometimes comfort does not look like relaxation. Sometimes comfort looks like staying emotionally familiar. Staying in patterns you already know. Staying around people who keep you small. Staying connected to excuses that protect accountability. Comfort often costs people the life they keep praying for. You're listening to the Afternoon Praise. I'm your host, Demetrius L. Brown.
Stay tuned and stay blessed here on Wave Radio.
If you just tuned in, you're listening to the Afternoon Praise, and we are talking about stop negotiating with your potential. Yes. See, high capacity people hide differently. Low capacity avoidance usually look obvious. High capacity avoidance look intelligent. That's why this conversation is dangerous, people. Because talented people know how to hide behind busyness, overthinking, endless preparation, planning, strategy meetings, productivity. And sometimes people stay busy specifically to avoid stillness. Because stillness forces honesty, and honesty forces responsibility. A lot of people are overwhelmed because silence exposes what distractions have been covering. When the noise stops, the truth becomes louder. Some people are using activity to avoid accountability. You're listening to the Afternoon Praise. I'm your host, Demetrius L. Brown.
Stay tuned and stay blessed here on Wave Radio.
You're listening to the Afternoon Praise on this Thrive Thursday. I know some of you all are getting ready, excited at your desk, talking about, "Ooh, I'm off tomorrow. I'm finna head to the beach. I'm finna da-da-da." But I know we like to get excited about vacation, but I want us to get more excited about our future. Yes, I want us to get excited about our potential. See, your potential requires behavioral alignment. Potential means nothing without behavior alignment. A lot of people talk about vision, purpose, calling, destiny, but behavior reveals alignment. Not words, people. Not just social media posts. Not inspiration. Behavior. Because eventually inconsistency interrupts momentum. Avoidance delays growth. Excuses weaken execution. And people start shrinking themselves emotionally. Some people keep speaking about the future version of themselves while continuing behaviors that contradict the future daily. See, eventually the contradiction creates intentional and internal frustration. Your future is connected to your behavior decisions today, people. You're listening to the Afternoon Praise. I'm your host, Demetrius L. Brown.
Bringing the sounds of heaven 24/7, Wave Radio.
Thank you for joining me here on the Afternoon Praise on this beautiful Thursday afternoon. It is Thrive Thursday, and we are talking about stop negotiating with your potential. See, families feel self-negotiation too. See, this does not only affect businesses. Families feel self-negotiation too. Children notice inconsistency, broken promises, emotional unpredictability, unstable discipline. And if you married, spouses notice delayed communication, avoidance, emotional withdrawal, lack of accountability, and eventually the environment becomes emotionally exhausting. Not because love is absent, because honesty is absent. Families become stronger when people stop negotiating with communication. Families become stronger when we stop negotiating with responsibility. Families become stronger when we stop negotiating with consistency. And families become stronger when we stop negotiating with emotional maturity. See, healthy environments require intentional leadership. Avoidance eventually affects everybody connected to you. You're listening to the Afternoon Praise. I'm your host, Demetrius L. Brown.
Catch the wave. You're listening to Wave Radio, your home for uplifting gospel music.
You're listening to the Afternoon Praise. This is Thrive Thursday. Hey, come here. Come closer. Let me tell you something. Stop waiting to feel ready. Stop it. See, a lot of people are waiting to feel confident, to feel motivated, to feel emotionally ready, to feel certain. But before they move, they're waiting for God to speak to them. Before they move, they're saying they're waiting for God to answer the prayer. But the Bible said faith without works is dead. And if you believe that God, the promise that God put over your life, and if you believe God answered your prayers, you need to move like it's already done. Let's talk about mature people. Mature people understand clarity often grows during movement, not before it. Some breakthroughs happen after the decision, after the discipline, after the consistency begin, not before. And honestly, many people are trying to emotionally feel their way into transformation instead of behaviorally moving their way into transformation. Movement creates momentum. Momentum creates confidence. Action often creates the clarity people are waiting for. And again, the Bible said faith without works is dead. You got to put the work in. Act like it's already done. You're listening to the Afternoon Praise. I'm your host, Demetrius L. Brown.
Catch the wave. You're listening to Wave Radio, your home for uplifting gospel music.
What's going on, good people? Yes, it is Thursday. It's Thrive Thursday. It's Thrive Thursday. Thrive Thursday. Hey, motivate yourself. Push yourself. Don't wait for other people to motivate you. You know, I know sometimes you might think, man, they're going to think I look crazy. I sound crazy. But that's all right. Because you know what you did? You put momentum in play. And God will correct things if it's all out, if it's out of whack, if it's wrong. God will correct that. Stop worrying about what people think and what people are going to say. But let's talk about Moses negotiated with his assignment. Exodus 4, verse 10. Oh, my Lord, I am not equivalent. When God called Moses, Moses immediately started negotiating. He focused on limitations, weakness, insecurities, personal discomfort. But here's the deeper reality. Moses was arguing against the capacity God already placed inside him. And many people still do the same thing today. They keep explaining to God why they are not ready, why they are not qualified, why the timing is wrong, why somebody else should do it. Yeah, I know that sounds crazy, don't it? But people are negotiating with God. And meanwhile, the assignment keeps sitting in the front of them waiting on agreement. People, stop negotiating with the capacity God already placed inside you. You're listening to the Afternoon Praise. I'm your host, Demetrius L. Brown.
Catch the wave. You're listening to Wave Radio, your home for uplifting gospel music.
If you just tuned in, you're listening to the Afternoon Praise on this Thrive Thursday. I'm your host, Demetrius Brown, and we are talking about stop negotiating with your potential. How many of y'all remember the story of the rich young ruler had capacity but protected comfort? Okay, if you don't remember, let me talk to you. See, you know, the rich young ruler approached Jesus asking about elevation. But when the conversation required sacrifice, he walked away sorrowful. Why? Because growth often requires discomfort. And some people want expansion, elevation, next level opportunity without disrupting the comfort system surrounding their current life. That's impossible. You are going to have to give something up. See, the next version of your life will eventually require different discipline, different thinking, different habits, different boundaries. growth always costs something emotionally. Growth and comfort rarely live in the same environment long term. Hey, you're listening to the Afternoon Praise. I'm your host, Demetrius L. Brown.
Catch the wave. You're listening to Wave Radio, your home for uplifting gospel music.
You're listening to the Afternoon Praise. Let's ask ourselves a question. Hey, can we put the mirror in front of us? Let's ask ourselves this question, and we need to be honest, okay? And I'm gonna ask myself, since y'all can hear me. Have I ever been double-minded? Yes, I have. Yes, I have. Have I ever been in a position that I chose comfort over reality? Yes, I have. Have that got me anywhere? No, it haven't. But let's talk about double-mindedness creates instability. See, James 1 verse 8, a double-minded man is unstable in all his ways. And yes, I've been unstable in all my ways trying to figure this thing out. But that's why we are talking today. See, that means part of you wants growth while another part wants safety. Parts of you want change while another part wants comfort. Part of you want discipline while another part keeps negotiating with excuses. That internal conflict creates instability. Emotionally, instability mentally, instability in behavior, and in your spiritual life. And eventually, internal instability start affecting external execution. See, now people struggle with consistency, focus, clarity, emotional steadiness, because the mind keeps debating what the spirit already knows. You cannot move powerfully while constantly debating your own growth. You're listening to the Afternoon Praise. I'm your host, Demetrius L. Brown.
Catch the wave. You're listening to Wave Radio, your home for uplifting gospel music.
You're listening to the Afternoon Praise on this Thrive Thursday, and we are talking about stop negotiating with your potential. See, excuses shrink visible capacity. See, excuses slowly shrink visible potential. Because every excuse reinforces limitation mentally. This is too hard. I'm too late. I'm not ready. I need more time. And this one right here, I'll start later. Over time, the mind begins accepting delay as identity. And people stop seeing themselves through possibility and start seeing themselves through avoidance. Excuses also create emotional permission to remain the same. And eventually, people normalize staying stuck while continually talking about change. Excuses slowly train people to underestimate themselves. It ain't nobody else the hater, you the hater. Nobody else is underestimating you. You're underestimating yourself. You're listening to the Afternoon Praise. I'm your host, Demetrius L. Brown.
Catch the wave. You're listening to Wave Radio, your home for uplifting gospel music.
If you got a shout out or request, I got you. Hit me up. I want to make sure that you are traveling. If you're on this road, you're traveling, we playing your request. Yes, and we're playing your shout out. And I want you to know, when you get on this road Friday, if you're traveling, I don't care if you're staying home, having a cookout, whatever you're doing, turn on Wave Radio and let Wave Radio, bless you with some good music. Yes, I will be on air tomorrow. Yes, I know tomorrow is traveling day, but I will be on the air. So make sure you listen to the Afternoon Praise while you're doing what you do tomorrow. All right. Again, that's from 2 to 6 Eastern Standard Time. But let's talk about high performers stop negotiating. See, high performers are not superhuman. They simply stop negotiating with necessary behaviors. They stop debating discipline, consistency, boundaries, structures, execution. They understand every negotiation with discipline delays progress. And eventually, mature people realize the hardest conversations is usually the ones with themselves. The greatest leadership battle often happens privately, before anybody else ever sees the results publicly. Self-leadership begins when excuses stop controlling behavior. Listen to the beginning of that sentence. Self-leadership. You're listening to the Afternoon Praise. I'm your host, Demetrius L. Brown.
Catch the wave. You're listening to Wave Radio, your home for uplifting gospel music.
You're listening to the Afternoon Praise, and I know Memorial Day weekend is upon us. I know some of you all are going to Bike Week and doing some things, but honestly, you might need to rethink what you're about to do for the weekend if it's going to cost you some stress. You think you're going to have some fun, but you're spending money you shouldn't be spending. You're hanging around people you shouldn't be hanging around. And you're putting yourself in environments you shouldn't be in. But let's okay, I'm gonna leave you alone. But let's have a Memorial Day weekend reflection. So as we move into Memorial Day weekend, I want people to honestly reflect. Not just relax, reflect. What conversations are you avoiding? What structure are you delaying? What behavior keeps interrupting your growth? What discipline keeps you negotiating emotionally? Because some people are not one decision away from success. Some people are one step away from success. Okay? Now, okay, no, okay. I know you probably say, hold on, one decision, one step is okay. People are not one decision away from success. Yes, I said it. They are one honest moment away. This weekend can either become another distraction or it can become a reset point. A moment where people finally stop lying to themselves about what they already know needs to change. Honesty is often the beginning of transformation. You're listening to the Afternoon Praise. I'm your host, Demetrius L. Brown.
Catch the wave. You're listening to Wave Radio, your home for uplifting gospel music.
If you just tuned in, you're listening to the Afternoon Praise on this Thrive Thursday, and we are talking about stop negotiating with your potential. And if you miss any part of this show, you can go to my YouTube channel, The Business Point Guard, and you can listen to the show entirely minus the music in between the breaks. And you can go back and listen to any other show that you miss or any show you just want to study and reflect. Excuse me. But let's talk about you already have more capacity than you think. See, some people have spent so much time focusing on weakness, they forgot how much capacity they actually possess. You already survived pressure. You've already survived the disappointment. You've already survived the setbacks. You've already survived emotional battles and uncertainty. There is more strength inside you than your excuses allow you to see. You have more discipline. You have more resilience. You have more leadership qualities. You have more ability. But that capacity cannot fully emerge while avoidance remains in control. And sometimes people are praying for confidence while God is waiting for movement. Because movement often reveals capacity people never knew they possessed. Listen to what I'm saying. You already have more capacity than your excuses allow you to see. You're listening to the Afternoon Praise. I'm your host, Demetrius L. Brown.
Catch the wave. You're listening to Wave Radio, your home for uplifting gospel music.
You're listening to the Afternoon Praise. My time is up, man. Where is the time going? Whoa, we are already at the end of May, and we are already at the end of the show. But that's all right, because that's why we cannot take our foot off the gas. We got a lot to do in our lives. Everybody. We are trying to accomplish a lot, and it's going to take a lot of discipline. It's going to take us stop negotiating with our potential. Let's look at Romans 12 verse 2. And be not conformed to this world, but be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind. Transformation requires honesty. This week, we have discussed your routines. We have discussed your environments. We have discussed how you execute. And we have discussed self-negotiation. Because sustainable leadership requires sustainable people. I said this yesterday. And before this Memorial Day weekend begins, stop negotiating with discipline. Stop negotiating with your healing. Stop negotiating with your growth. And stop negotiating with honesty. Stop negotiating with structure and stop negotiating with accountability. You got to draw the line. Terminate the negotiation right now and stop delaying the life you already know you were built to live. Because your future is waiting on your honesty. And the dangerous thing about self-negotiation is that eventually people become so skilled at explaining their delay that they stop realizing they are delaying at all. And I'm going to say that again. The dangerous thing about self-negotiation is that eventually people become so skilled at explaining their delay that they stop realizing they are delaying at all. Don't spend another season talking yourself out of the very growth you keep praying for. You already know what needs to happen. Now move. Hey, you're listening to the Afternoon Praise, and I thank you for joining me on this Thrive Thursday. I hope this show stepped on your feet. I hope this show make you sit back and be like, wow, he's talking about me. Because guess what? I'm talking about myself too. And we got to take accountability. But I'll catch you tomorrow on Fearless Faith Friday. I am out of here. Peace.
Stay tuned and stay blessed here on Wave Radio.